and welcome to Just Ask Mrs. Hurlbut, Episode 1. I'm Mrs. Hurlbut, and I'm feeling super awkward right now, staring at a phone with a Ring camera and my kids sitting on the other side of it instead of a classroom full of students. So bear with me as I adapt. So with me to help with the questions today is my daughter-in-law, another Mrs. Hurlbut, Shay.
No big deal. Made the first episode.
So she's going to be vetting the questions, asking the questions that you have created for me, and thank you for that. My students were the ones who said they want to talk about long-distance relationships, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with question number 1.
Let's do it. All right. What do you do about your relationship if you are heading to 2 different schools after high school graduation?
All right, so you've been dating a couple months, you're crazy about each other, you can't imagine going your separate ways, but the reality is you are. So it's time to make some grown-up decisions about whether or not you want this relationship to last and whether or not you're willing to put in the effort that it's going to take to make it last. So take a good long look at that person and ask yourself, where do I want to go from here? Is this somebody that I see a potential with? Is this somebody that is going to maybe get in the way of my good time? You got to have that conversation. You got to talk to that person. You got to make some decisions about how invested you're going to be in that relationship if you stay.
And you think a decision's important. You think you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to make it work or whether or not you're going to, go your separate ways. There's no, let's just see what happens.
I think just see what happens is not going to work because you've not front-loaded any trust. You've not discussed any plan. You were not intentional, and that is the key, is to be intentional, whether you're going one direction or the other, to be intentional. You can say, let's try it out for the first semester and then regroup at Christmas time and talk about whether or not this is working. Yes, you can do that. But whatever it is, it has to be intentional. You've got to make a decision. But first ask yourself, is this somebody worth investing in? Is this somebody worth fighting for? Is this a relationship that I want to see grow? And if it is, you're signing up for a big commitment. And you're also signing up to be completely and totally honest with each other about what that distance is going to look like. I was in a long-distance relationship when I was in college with my now husband, and we knew on date number 1 that we were both going away to different schools, and we decided that it was really worth committing to each other. And we were able to find this wonderful balance between being together but living separately, and then savoring the moments that we were together. But when we were apart, we only spoke at specific times during the week. We gave each other a lot of space. We encouraged each other. We didn't have jealousy or doubt or insecurities. It was really important that we talk all that through way ahead of the game. However, we were in college in the early 80s when all we had was a landline and a really expensive long-distance phone bill. So we were very limited to when we could talk. You guys today, it's way more complicated. With social media, you're way in each other's business. No one wants to know what the other person's doing, and yet you guys know exactly what the other person's doing. That distance gives you your independence and also makes your heart grow fonder. If you're going to be in a long-distance relationship, set a plan, stay the course, and give each other space.
I doubt anyone's talking to each other once a day. That'd be wild. Like you said with social media. Like, set a time. Only talk once a day.
We were once a week.
It's wild to think about because even just now, I think, it's rare that you talk to anyone super important once a day. Right?
But imagine if you did talk to somebody once a day and you're on 2 different sides of the country, you're having to stop what you're doing to find that person, to tell them what you're doing, and that's taking you away from what you're doing. If you really love somebody, you'll give them the space and the freedom to live their lives and to have this amazing experience. And they will be back waiting for you at break and after graduation if it continues.
That's actually, I feel like, a great segue into the next question, which is, do you think it's true that long-distance relationships take away from the college experience?
The answer is absolutely yes, if you haven't established a plan. So if all you're doing is wondering what the other person's doing while they're not with you, you're both missing out on your college experience. You've got to say, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. I'll check in with you. And when I do check in with you, it's not to find out what you were up to, but to see if you're happy. Are you enjoying yourself? It can take away from it if you are insecure, if you are jealous, if you are doubting the intention of the other person. If you don't have trust, you're going to run into a whole lot of problems.
I was just going to say, it sounds like trust is a pretty big foundation of all of that.
It's huge, and it's also hard to come by trust when you're 18.
Yeah.
Especially in the world we live in today. But there are people out there who are confident enough in themselves that they would give each other that space. I know I married somebody like that, and I believe he would say the same thing about me. Maybe we can get him to be a guest in here.
Phil, do you have people that have ever come to you and almost regretted trying the long distance because they felt like it took away from their college experience, like found out too late, too little too late type of mentality? Like, I wish I would have recognized the signs, and I missed out on so much because I was so focused on, this relationship.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
Maybe not now, but when I was in college, I noticed a lot of people in long distance relationships for the wrong reason, and they were miserable. They were either completely homesick or they were on edge, worried about every move they made. Most of those relationships didn't last. We were one of the few that did because, again, I had confidence in the relationship. He had confidence in the relationship. Confidence is everything, and when you're confident, you can step away from social media. You can go a whole day or even a week without talking to somebody. You can because you trust the relationship.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess into our next question, is the last part of senior year a worthwhile time to start a relationship? Because I was going to say, do you think the amount of time you've been with this person affects,
I'm listening.
How successful a long-distance relationship can be, whether or not you started it during your senior year or your sophomore year or your freshman year or whatever it is.
Well, I don't think timing, how long you've been dating, factors in so much. It's that big decision of, oh my gosh, it's June and I just met somebody. That was me. So...
Wait, did I know that?
It was April. And I was like, this is not supposed to happen. I am not supposed to be in a relationship. I'm supposed to go away to school and fall in love there. But I didn't. And I know students that have had that happen and have come to me and said, what am I going to do? I already know what I'm doing next year. And if I pursue this, I'm setting myself up for a lot of heartache. But if I don't pursue this, I might be missing out on something amazing. So I always ask the same questions. You need to decide whether or not this is worth pursuing. And have you communicated this? Are you both on the same page? What if this person does not agree with or think the way that you're thinking? You've got to talk to each other. Is it worth it? For me, it was totally worth it. But boy, if I wasn't 100% in, I don't think I would have made that kind of a commitment. Yeah. So if you're in a new relationship and you're about to graduate or you're about to leave, maybe you say, let's go our separate ways and maybe I'll see you at Christmas. Or take the leap. And if you take the leap, then you're asking to make a big commitment on a relationship that hasn't even really started yet. Yeah. So that's really tricky. Talk to each other. Decide if it's worth it together. You have to agree.
Right. Well, because navigating a relationship in general is new for a lot of people. And then navigating it when you're not even together.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And again, the more you're worrying about that person, the less you're investing in your own college experience.
Right.
College comes and goes, 4 years for most, and the last thing you want to do is regret sitting at home worrying about somebody that you're in a relationship with, or being suspicious, or crying because they're not answering the phone. I mean, don't ruin your good time.
College is a good time. And what can I do, a student do, someone do in this position to feel less clingy or jealous in a long distance relationship?
Be confident in yourself. Be confident in yourself. Know your value. Know that nobody else defines you but you. And if you're clinging on to somebody, they're probably not going to like that. And they're going to push away.
Yeah.
And if that makes you clingier, then that's a problem. You have to be on the same page. You have to love each other equally. If you're secure, you will not be clingy.
Right. Well, and you mentioned social media, and I feel like that's such a toxic part of a lot of relationships nowadays.
Yeah.
So it's almost like setting maybe your own boundaries. Like, you only check, as horrible as it sounds that we even have to say that, like, you only check once a day. Or
right.
Like,
And be mindful and appropriate in your posts, not just for the person you're dating, but for you.
Yeah.
And for the general public. Think about what you're posting so that you're not putting somebody else in a position to be insecure or to feel left out or to get jealous or get the wrong idea.
Yeah. We're talking about being clingy and jealous and avoiding that. But that obviously is easier said than done. So how do you recommend people, not overthink their long distance relationship and avoid those feelings?
The more you front load, meaning at the beginning of the separation, you've got it all dialed in. You know exactly what the expectation is. You're both committed to that. If you're both in agreement on that, you're not going to overthink it. You're not going to
question everything.
Yeah, you're if you're on the same page, your thoughts don't get the better of you. I remember when we were in our 3rd year of long distance, I doubled the ante by going to Europe for a semester, and I spoke to Phil even less than I did at school. And because it's all we knew at that point, boy, we just had to completely separate ourselves from each other. We had to literally put our relationship on a back burner, because if we didn't, then we were going to start getting homesick, and then we were going to start finding ways to talk to each other. We spoke to each other once a month when we were in Europe. But we just knew that it'd be worth it when we came home, because we both set boundaries and we did not do anything that we said we wouldn't do. And that's going to be up to the couple. And I know when I tell my students, we allowed each other to date other people, my students go, "What? How is that even possible?" Yeah. Well, in this world, it's a lot more difficult. But we set very clear boundaries on what a date looked like. And if it ever turned into a second date, I would be the first to know, and he would be the first to know.
Why do you think it's so different
now? Because everyone's in everyone's business.
Yeah.
Everybody knows too much about each other.
Well, do you think intimacy and stuff also plays a role in that?
Huge role.
Yeah.
Huge role. Couples who are limiting their physical intimacy have a much easier time being apart and trusting each other. Couples who are intimate on a regular basis are dependent upon that, and it's much harder to be separated. And they also get much more territorial when they're not together, because they're afraid they're doing something with somebody else that they're supposed to be doing with them. So you're going to hear me a lot talk about chastity a lot. Stand by.
Just getting started on chastity. Those are all the questions that we had for this episode. It sounds like you clearly, know what you're talking about. Never was in a long distance relationship myself, and I feel like I learned a lot.
Well, you had a couple months.
Yeah.
Couple months.
Right. Forgot about that.
with my son, who's sitting right behind the camera.
Forgot about that. When you tried to break up with me. Mm-hmm. And he tried to have the conversation with me, probably because of you, about setting boundaries.
He did, because I told him to. And you were like, what?
And I was not okay with the boundaries that he was trying to set.
It's definitely a generational thing, but it's worth a try.
Yeah, it worked out.
So obviously, this is not what I'm used to. Thank you, Shay, for filling in for the students. This format will evolve as I evolve in my understanding. But it will always be about the questions that you ask, and I will give you an honest response. So we'll be coming back soon, I hope. Yeah, for episode 2. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon.